We are live. What is up, fight nerds and dirty gamblers? I am Erik, and this is Erik Bets Fights. It's big money bets time, folks. Usually we do this on Thursday nights. We're doing it one day early. I'm actually going to be traveling this weekend. I'm leaving tomorrow. So, yeah, we're going to do it on Wednesday night, but that's all right. Before we jump into today's show, folks, I'm going to go ahead. I usually don't do much of a recap. I do a little bit of one, but I am going to recap a little bit how it went last time out. If you've never seen the show before, what we do on the show is the first segment, we give out some parlays. The second segment, we give out some props. And the biggest parlay that we give out is a 6-leg parlay. I did actually bet the 6-leg parlay that I gave out last week. And I hit 5 legs of the 6-leg parlay. And I'll give you one guess who it was that didn't hit. Yeah, it was Holly Holm. Yeah, if Holly Holm had won that decision, I would have hit my 6-leg parlay. The parlay was Johnny Young Park, Jailton Almeida, Joseph Holmes, Tabitha Ricci, Jonathan Martinez, and Holly Holm. I had a lot of eggs in the Holly Holm basket. I had her in that parlay. I had her in 2 other parlays. I had a money line bet on her and a prop bet on her to win by decision. And of course, all of those fell apart when she didn't win that decision. And if she had won, it would have been either the biggest winning night that I've had so far or very close. I'm not sure exactly, but I would have won like 12 units or something like that. So yeah, it sort of fell apart. Our boy Patrick from Addicted to Combat is here. Good to see you, Patrick. Yeah, that was a gosh darn it Holly or gosh darn it the judges or whoever the heck we want to blame it on. But yeah, it was very close to being a big night for me and it ended up not being. And then to recap a little bit on the props, I didn't hit any of the 6 props from last week. But there were a bunch that I came close on. I picked Sam Hughes by decision. You know, she ended up getting a stoppage with like a minute left in the fight or something like that. And some of these, I just got too specific. I picked Jailton Almeida by KO in round 1. He was landing strikes on the ground and then ended up getting the submission instead. I picked Uros Medic by KO in round 1. He got the KO in round 2. And I picked Joseph Holmes by sub in round 2. He got the sub in round 1. So, and this is something I've been talking about the last few weeks on this show is that I've been shooting too big on the props. I've been like, my lowest prop has been like plus 500 or something because I've been focusing too much on those nice looking numbers and not focusing enough on the fact that the numbers don't mean anything if none of them win. So I'm trying to like focus a little bit more on like, instead of just putting out pretty looking props, try to pick some that are actually going to win, you know? So, because yeah, if I look at those ones that I just read out to you there, if I had just picked Jailton Almeida in round 1, rather than picking the method, that one would have won. If I would have picked Uros Medic by KO without picking around, that one would have won. If I would have picked Joseph Holmes by sub without picking around, that one would have won. I just need to get a little bit less fancy, be okay with a little bit lower numbers. So I'm going to try to focus on that a little bit more going forward. So yeah, looking at my props for today, I'm starting with some lower numbers. So maybe we'll actually hit something this time. But yeah, we're feeling good. We're feeling good moving forward anyway. We've got a great guest for you again this week, folks. We have a great guest for you every week. But yeah, this is a dude I've talked to a little bit on Twitter. I've never done a show with him before. We're going to go ahead and bring him on right now. His name is Mike. He goes by CouchWarrior. How's it going, Mike? I think you're muted, buddy.
I was.
There we go.
Erik. Thank you for having me on the show. I'm hyped to be here. I'm hyped to break down some fights and put forward some parlays and props.
Hell yeah, man. How have things been going for you betting wise lately in general?
It's going pretty good. This year opened up pretty horrible for me. Ended up in the negatives in terms of units overall. And it's been a slow climb, but we're back to, I believe, plus 32 units according to my record right now. I'm tracked online. You can see everything, betmma.tips. Yeah, I've been doing all right. Last few weeks have been okay. Last week was great. I had a bunch on Holly Holm. Had she won, it would have been like a tremendous night. It was pretty good though. I ended up plus 8.25 units. So I'll
Very
take
good.
it.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, it was one of those nights where, like I said, like I had a bunch of eggs in the Holly Holm basket and I kind of didn't even realize it until that fight was starting. And I was like looking at everything and I was like, oh, I have her in like 3 parlays. And I was like, wow, like I wasn't intending to go that heavy on her. I just kind of ended up plugging her in a bunch of spots. And I was like, wow, this is really going to make it or break it here. So we got Victor here. Hello, gentlemen. Let's make big money this week with crazy props. Won't be able to comment much because I'm at work, but I'm all ears. Awesome. Well, thanks for being here, Victor. I appreciate it. It is good to have you. It looks like we've got 2 live viewers right now, and they've both already talked to us in the chat. So thanks for being here, Victor and Patrick. Appreciate it. I think last week we hit like 8 or 9 viewers at one point live. I think that's the biggest we've had. So, 2's all right. We can live with that. Awesome. Well, why don't we go ahead and jump into the show there, Mike? What do you feel about that?
Let's do it.
All right, awesome. So we'll start with our 2-leg parlay. Since you're the guest, I'll give you the choice. Do you want to start with yours or do you want me to kick it off?
I can start.
All right, go for it, man.
Sure. So for the 2-leg, when you let me, like when we were talking about the format of the show and everything, I started thinking, I was looking at the parlays I already have, and I was like, do I want to do those or do I want to come up with something new? And I decided to come up with something new. So
okay, cool.
For the 2-leg, and I am gonna play everything I bring up here because I wouldn't bring it up if I don't want to play it. So Volkov plus Damon Jackson is my first play. I got that at -105 when I made it about 2 hours ago. So should be around still. And I think both of those spots are pretty solid. I think the Volkov line is off a bit. I think that if Volkov didn't just get subbed by Aspinall in round 1, we'd have a very different story going into this fight in terms of what the odds were. And I do think he wins. The size difference is tremendous. I think he's a better striker all around. I think that Rozenstruik is just very dependent on counter striking. So I do like Volkov a lot. And then for Jackson, short notice for Argueta. Size difference is tremendous. Going up a weight class. We saw him struggle a bit with grappling too against Ricky, even though he's a grappler himself. So I do like Damon Jackson to win. I hate the odds. I know you got great odds, -280, I want to say I saw you said.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Compared to what it is now, I was seeing -600 or something on Bet Online.
What did you get him at for this parlay? Do you remember?
I believe it was -575, which is honestly gross. I hate that. But
right.
I had to make the parlay.
Last I checked, which was earlier today, it was probably a few hours ago, but he was still at -475 on William Hill. I get William Hill has, a lot of times when you look at best fight odds, William Hill has even better odds than the best ones listed on there. I don't know why, but sometimes I find some pretty rad odds on. It doesn't move as quickly as some other books. A lot of the time, it doesn't catch up. So yeah, I think he's still at -475 there. But yeah, that -280, I couldn't believe that, and when I made that bet, I didn't even realize I think that fight had literally, because wasn't it just only announced even just a few days ago?
Yeah, this week for sure.
Yeah, I think the fight had just been announced and I didn't even realize that. And so I think I literally got that line right as it came out. And then, it blew up pretty quick after that. So I was feeling good about that. Yeah, honestly, as far as your breakdowns of those 2 fights, I really don't have anything to add. I like both of those picks, and not to give too much away, but they'll both be making appearances on my side as well. So I'm not even going to say much about it right now. Patrick says Erik laid the hammer down on Damon Jackson and inflated the line. Yeah, I did. I made the biggest money line bet that I've made so far on Damon Jackson at -280. I've definitely caught some grief from people who think I'm crazy for trusting Damon Jackson that much, but I mean, now that he's at -600, it's feeling like a pretty damn good bet. That doesn't
makes
mean
you feel better, right? With the line movement.
Absolutely, yeah. All right, so for my 2-legger, I went with Movsar Evloev at -400. I really don't have much to say here except that we know who Movsar is. We know what he looks to do, and most of the time he's able to do it. And I think he's probably going to be able to do it here. I think that it should just be WrestleMania all day. Hopefully, if it does play out on the feet for any stretches, it could get a little hairy. There's a possibility that Movsar could, he does tire out a little bit. It's not like he death gasses or anything, but he can slow down a little bit as the fight goes on. It's possible Ige could catch him or something, but I'm pretty confident in Movsar winning there. And I usually try to look at these lines right before the show. I actually put this together yesterday, so these might be a little bit inaccurate now, but he was at -400 when I put this together. And then my second one is Jeff Molina at -185. I do think there's a good chance that he's going to lose the first round to Zalgis's pressure. He tends to be one of those dudes who sort of feels his way into the fight. He's probably going to get pressured early and not be putting a whole lot out there, but he usually, once he kind of makes his reads and gets everything sort of felt and figured out, he kind of comes alive a little bit more. And I think we'll see him. I think we'll see him come alive and put more out there and be able to kind of overwhelm Zalgis as the fight progresses. So those two together, Evloev and Molina, I was able to get at minus 108. So not quite even, but pretty close. Isn't that about where yours was too, right in that range?
Yeah, minus 105 for me.
Perfect. Awesome. Any thoughts about those at all, Mike?
Yeah, I mean, Evloev, not to spoil anything, will make an appearance for me too.
Right.
But Molina, I do have a bet on Molina too, money line. I played him earlier though when he was a bit better in terms of odds. I think I got him at like minus 150 something, 158. I got him at. At this point, it's a little too deep for me, but I still think he wins. I'm a little nervous. I was too nervous to parlay him just because I think that Zalgas is going to bring this wrestling game to it. And I think that, Molina's got that 37% takedown defense. He hasn't shown the best ground game. So there are some concerns, which is why I didn't want to parlay him, but I'm with you on the pick. I do think Molina wins too.
I do have some concerns as well. Yeah. And I did put a money line bet on him as well. I think I got him at minus 160, minus 165, something like that. This was one of those where I made these parlays by I don't usually do it this way, but I put out the 6 fighters that I wanted to put on it, and then I was like, all right, now I got to figure out the order. And that's one of those things where I could sit and toy with it forever and pull people around, but that's what I ended up with. What are you looking at for your 4-legger?
So for my 4-legger, I added Evloev. I got him at minus 410, so I don't think the lines moved that much from when you looked. And then I also added Aaron Blanchfield. So a bit of a square parlay, but you got to take the money when it's there. Look, I think that the Blanchfield line is like beyond wide. I really do. I think we're overhyping her a little bit, but she is the real deal in my opinion. Like, not to do MMA math, but if you made Miranda Maverick versus JJ Aldrich, like I think Maverick wins that fight maybe like 7 out of 10 times personally. And Blanchfield just gave Maverick 0 chances to even make the fight close. So I expect a similar story here. I think maybe JJ can make it a bit harder to get, held down, but overall, I do expect another Blanchfield decision. So
what did the number come out to on that 4-legger?
So for that 4-legger, I got plus 193.
Nice. Yeah, I like those picks too. And Aaron Blanchfield is like you said, I agree that the line is wide. It's a little bit silly, but yeah, it's one of those spots where it's weird that we think this way about parlays, but I do it too. It's like, oh, I wouldn't bet that line, but I'd parlay it. Like, it doesn't really make sense logically, but we all do it kind of, but like, yeah, I agree that the line is wide, but I also think, yeah, I do think there's a good chance that Blanchfield cruises here. And she kind of has, I always call this like the holy trinity of qualities that I love to bet on in a fighter. And it's wrestling skill. Like, first of all, having the actual wrestling skill and technique, having the desire and tenacity to push the wrestling, because so often we see fighters who are like, their best path to victory is wrestling and they just don't do it. So first of all, you need the skill, then you need the desire and the tenacity, and then you need the cardio to actually be able to keep that up. And if a fighter has all 3 of those things, those are fighters that I really, really like to bet on. And I think Blanchfield has those things. Yeah, so often it's like, maybe the reason that they have the skill, but they're not pushing the wrestling because they know they don't have the cardio too. That's probably what it is a lot of the time. But yeah, when they've got all those, I love that.
She kind of reminds me of like Jonathan Pierce in terms of style.
Yeah. Yep, love it. Yeah, all right, my 4-legger. I'm adding legs that I believe you already have in yours that we've already talked about. So to recap, my 2-legger was Evloev and Molina. I'm adding Damon Jackson. He was at minus 475 on William Hill when I looked at it, and Alexander Volkov at minus 155. I feel the same way as you do about that Volkov fight. I actually bet, I never do this, almost never, but I actually bet Volkov weeks ago before I even did tape. I like never really bet without seeing the tape, but I saw that line and I was just like, I think that this is a really good fight for him. I mean, it's like you said, I mean, obviously Jairzinho can always, he can always catch you on the chin, but when it's a situation where it's a fighter with a really, who's very like buttoned up, has a really consistent process, has really consistent output against a fighter who's pretty much entirely dependent on the knockout, I do tend to trust that fighter with the more consistent process. So I'm totally with you there. So yeah, my 4-legger comes out to plus 283. That's
sweet.
What are you looking at for your 6-legger?
All right. So for the 6-legger, first I'm adding Menefield at minus 165. his opponent, I mean, have you been following that whole story with like
Yes.
record being? It's so I've never seen anything like it before. Like he legally changed his name to get some losses shaved off his record. Like, what does that even mean? And
Did you read the Sherdog article?
no, I didn't fully read it. What did it say?
Okay. Well, I was just reading it right before this, and I was just talking to my wife about it, who, bless her heart, has to sit and she stares at her phone with her eyes glazed over while I talk about fights all day, pretty much. But I was like, she actually was kind of interested in this, because once I started telling her, she was like, "What, really?" Yeah, like he's apparently changed. He's gone by like 4 different names. He's changed his name numerous times. Like, yeah, anybody watching this, check out that Sherdog article, because they brought the receipts as well. Like, so this stuff has been going on for years, that this dude Askar Mozharov's whoever they are, his coaches or people related to him in some way, have been emailing the Sherdog Fight Finder team over the years and pretending to be promoters of these different shows in Russia and in Thailand and whatever, and just sending them these emails that are like, "Oh, this guy Askar Mozharov, he didn't actually fight on my show. It shows that he lost. That fight didn't even happen. Take it down." And like, just this stuff has been going on for years. And apparently somebody contacted Sherdog after it was announced that he was making his UFC debut, and they were trying to like fraudulently change his record, like after he's signed to be in the UFC. Like, yeah, it's absolute insanity. Sorry to cut you off. Go
No,
ahead.
you're good. You're good. Yeah,
it's been some wild stuff, man.
I don't remember what it was before, but like his record now is 21-11-0, and I know for sure it was 11
before.
Yeah, it's so crazy. But anyways, I just think he's not really UFC caliber. Like, he's knocking guys out on the regional scene, sure, but he's also getting knocked out by guys like Christian Torres, who, like, I don't want to hate on anybody, but like, he's not a UFC caliber fella. And I just think he's super one-dimensional. He's got no ground game at all. He's a striker. I think he's pretty good at striking, but he doesn't have much of a cardio. Doesn't go I think he's gone the distance one time, if I remember correctly. And he's just too one-dimensional for me. I think that Menifield can win this in a lot of ways. I think that Menifield can win a decision. If he chooses to grapple, I think that's his easiest path to victory. Like, what he did to Charant should be easy here if he does it. But he might not, knowing Menifield. That's the issue. But I think regardless, he should be fine as long as he doesn't get KO'd. I know we've been hearing stuff about, like, yeah, Menifield got KO'd by OSP. But, like, he's a vet. He's a legit vet who's like been in the game, and he's been through this. Like, this guy Askar Mozharov is like, I don't want to say a fraud, but like, something's up over there. So yeah, I like Menifield to win. And then I'm also on Mike Trizano. I didn't love the -225, which I got him at for the parlay. I bet him earlier on, kind of like you said when the lines first opened. I don't like betting without doing the tape. But I did move on him very early. I did like a quick tape study and then played him and then checked it later. I played him at -180. I want to say -180. I'm just double checking.
Yeah, that's a good line.
No, I lied. I got -205. But not as good, but I'll take it. Anyways, so I think Almeida is actually very, very talented. I remembered him being worse than he actually was once I rewatched the tape. I actually was very impressed. If he could like keep up that pace and what he did throughout 3 rounds, it'll be a whole nother story, and I'd probably be on him here. But he can't. And that's pretty clear. I think Trizano's going to survive round 1. Maybe it's a live betting opportunity if you're into that. But I think Trizano survives and then just wins a decision. I think he grinds him out. I think Trizano's got great striking, very good fight IQ. I think the camp is great over at Tiger Schulman's. It's like, it's so funny to me to say that. Like, I went to Tiger Schulman's when I was like 7 years old for Taekwondo, and they have like a whole MMA team with some animals. But
that's awesome.
So I do like Trizano to win the fight here, and that 6-piece parlay gives me +579 odds.
Nice. Yeah, I agree with your read on that Trizano fight. Like, I think that a lot of the stuff you said is like pretty much exactly what I typed in my notes. Like, Almeida's going to be dangerous early, but he's likely going to slow down. And Trizano's one of those guys, kind of like what I said about Volkov. He's one of those guys who can be trusted to just, he doesn't put out the most volume. He doesn't really present a lot of danger necessarily, but he just stays pretty consistent and keeps it buttoned up and just kind of sticks to his game. And I think, once Almeida has come out and kind of done Almeida things for a little while, I think Trizano will be able to just continue to kind of do Trizano things. Yeah, pretty much. And So yeah, and you also threw Menifield in there. Menifield is actually the fifth leg of my sixth legger as well. So to recap, I'm looking at Evloev, Molina, Jackson, Volkov. I put in Menifield at minus 160, and I typed one sentence in my notes here that is pretty much exactly what you were saying. I typed, if Menifield comes out like he did against Fabio Charant, I think he gets Askar Mozharov out of there in less than half a round. Like, I think, but like you said, yeah, like again, Menifield, yeah, I'd like minus 160. If we could trust Menifield to actually fight to his best win condition here, that is a steal of a line. That is a brilliant line, but you just can't trust him to do that. You know, he might come out and decide to just throw down toe to toe with this guy and he might get knocked out. But yeah, if he came out here and was like, you know what, I'm literally just going to run across the cage, I'm going to punch to close distance, and I'm going to take this dude down, I think, yeah, I do not think the fight would last long. So I like that a lot. I actually did end up betting, I bet Menifield inside the distance, and I think I got it at minus 115 or something. I thought that was a pretty decent line. But and then for my final leg, I don't do this every week, but some weeks I like to put a dog in there just to spice it up a little bit. I went with Johnny Munoz at plus 115. You know, I do have concerns with how this fight will play out. You know, I mean, and I feel like I don't know. Like, this is one of those fights where, like, okay, is Tony Gravely going to come out and look for takedowns and look to try to win from on top, or is he going to be concerned about Munoz's ground game and decide that he wants to stay standing up? And if that's the case, is Munoz going to decide that he wants to stay standing up? Is he going to try to take Gravely down? If he does try to take him down, can he get him down? Is this going to be one of those fights where two grapplers have a horrible kickboxing match for 15 minutes? You know, I feel like I don't know what this fight is going to look like, but I feel like if they do spend a decent amount of time on the ground, I feel like Munoz is just so slick and so good at just floating and transitioning between different positions. And Gravely has been submitted, I think, in 5 of his 7 losses. So I think if they do spend a good amount of time on the ground, I like Johnny Munoz to potentially find a submission here. So I decided to throw him in there at plus 115. And that puts my 6-legger at plus 1240. So putting that little bit of plus money in at the bottom there definitely helped me out a lot. Oh, did we lose it? There you are.
Yeah, I turned it off by accident, but yeah, I like most of that. I have to be against the Munoz pick because I am on. I thought you might be, but yeah. Listen, I've been hearing a lot about Munoz and everything, and like I just feel like, what do we have to really, show us this? Like that win over Jamie Simmons, like, does that really mean much? Jamie Simmons got brought into the UFC to get Giga his first KO, so like I don't know how much to take from that. On your side, though, his performance against Nate Maness, though, was much better than I remembered. I remembered him getting smoked, and like that wasn't the case even a little bit. He actually did pretty well in that fight. So I do get it. I do see the upside. I just feel like we're most likely just going to see Gravely lay on him for 3 rounds. So like I'm on that side, but I do get it.
And I do think that's a pretty likely outcome too. I mean, obviously the odds are close for a reason. Yeah, I think Gravely just blanketing him for 15 minutes is a pretty likely outcome as well. But yeah, and I think, like I said, you said you're going to play all these, which awesome. I typically don't end up, like, I do pick and choose. I play some of the props. I'm trying to decide if I'm actually going to play this 6-legger or not. If I do play it, I mean, if I'm being quite honest, Johnny Munoz getting that plus number in there at the end, that might be a little bit more for show than anything else. Like if I do actually make the 6-legger, I'll probably end up switching him out, but maybe not. We'll see. I don't know. So there's a little peek behind the curtain. Sorry, viewers. I'm just being honest with you. I like to get that plus number in there. All right, let's go ahead and move on to the second segment of the show. This is the part we call Highly Improbable, where we talk about our 6 favorite prop bets. So rather than anything where we actually like go through the whole card, we literally just start at what is our lowest payout prop bet, and we just go back and forth and share our prop bets. Fittingly enough, my first prop bet, I'm starting at plus 275, so a little bit lower than I typically do. And fittingly enough, I went with Johnny Munoz by sub. And I pretty much already gave my breakdown for that. So I'm just going to pass it off to you, Mike.
Yeah. So I actually started lower. at minus 110. I hope that's okay.
That's all right.
I did Damon Jackson by sub. At minus 110, I felt like it was even maybe a little bit ridiculous. 14 of 20 wins by submission. The guy's like minus 600 now, and you're giving me his most likely path at minus 110. Like, it's kind of hard not to take it. So I did. And he's fighting a wrestler, right? So someone who's going to be looking to take him down and take him to where he's most comfortable. So,
yeah, I totally agree with you. I did look at that line and I liked it, but I think for me, it's like I'm working on baby steps as far as getting more realistic with where I start my props. Like, I looked at that and I was like, I like that minus 110, but I'm just not ready to do that yet. Plus 275 is enough of a step down for me at this point. But then when I don't hit any of these props, then next week I'm going to be starting at like a plus 100 or something. But so my second one, this is something we already kind of talked about a little bit as well. I went with a plus 300 Alonzo Menafield by KO TKO in round one. Like I said, I love the idea of him just looking to grapple right away. And even if he does, I think a ground and pound finish is pretty likely if he does take him to the ground. And even if they do, if they go toe to toe on the feet, Menafield by KO is, a fairly likely outcome there too. I hope he doesn't look to do it that way. But considering that there's an excellent chance that this fight ends in round one, and I think Alonzo Menafield is the more likely winner, I thought plus 300 for that was a pretty decent line, and I probably will actually play that one.
Okay, so my next one was also a KO prop, but not a round. So I took Gravely by KO or TKO at plus 275. I already bet all these, but I bet this one for just a quarter unit. He's got 2 KO wins in the UFC already. We see he's got massive power. He almost finished Nate Maness in the first round. If he had more time, he very well could have. And Munoz is a great grappler, but on the feet, I do feel that he's lacking right now. And I think that if Gravely wins, if Gravely gets a few good shots, I think he can get the finish here. So I did like that number, plus 275 for a KO. So just a small sprinkle.
Yeah, I don't mind that. I like that one. That was the line that I'd seen. I like it. So for my next one, this is me getting right after I said I was going to try not to get so fancy anymore. I did get a little bit fancy on this one, and it was simply because when I looked at that minus 110 line that you were talking about, it just wasn't. Even though I do think it's a good line, it just wasn't a fun, juicy line, So I went with at plus 475. Damon Jackson by submission in round two. And actually, here's what I typed in my notes. No particular reason to pick round two here, but I think Jackson winning by sub is pretty likely, and it's only minus 110 if you don't pick a round, so I picked one. That's entirely, that's all the reasoning you're getting out of me there.
Honestly, like if I was forced to pick a round, I'd probably pick two also, to be completely honest.
And I looked, and with those, a lot of times what I do is, especially with somebody who has like a lot of submission wins or a lot of knockout wins or whatever, I just look through their whole record and see if there tends to be a round that they get them in a lot. And he does have, it's not like overwhelmingly so, but he does have quite a few subs in round two. So we can pretend we've got a good reason anyway.
Personally, like I usually like the round threes, because like then you know what to look for. You're just looking for a guy who's got bad cardio and a guy who's got good cardio and can finish late,
Absolutely.
Round two,
yeah, I do bet a lot of those round threes. I love those props. Yeah.
Round two is a little more tricky. I feel like I'm betting round three like every week.
Yeah, I love those round three props. And, it's not like I hit them regularly, but I've hit enough of them that I'm pretty sure if I tracked those specifically, I think I'd be up on them, because you only got to hit one every 20 tries or something. So
yeah, nice. I'm running off a bit of a high over there, because a few weeks back when Devin Clark fought William Knight, I took Devin Clark by KO in round 3 at like plus 2,300 or something, and I did like a 0.1 unit and I won 2.4. So since then I've just been like hunting those round 3 KOs, subs, whatever.
Yeah, that's awesome. The last couple of those that I can remember getting, I got Gerald Mearshart by sub in round 3 against Dustin Stoltzfus, and I got Kyler Phillips by sub in round 3. I forget which fight that was now though, but yeah, anyway, and the Kyler Phillips one was like plus 1,200 or something, and I think the Gerald Mearshart one was like plus 2,400 or something. So yeah, you don't have to hit too many of those to feel good.
That killed
it's like
me.
It's like an addiction. Yeah, once you hit a couple of those, and it's like, man, I can't stop betting these round threes.
Yep.
Awesome. Where the heck did we leave off? Were we going to?
I believe it's my third.
You're on. Yep, you're right. Yep, go for it.
Yeah. So for my third one, I went with Ode Osborne by sub at plus 500. He's got 4 submission wins on his record, and like it hasn't been his thing since he's come to the UFC, but we've seen that it is something that he can do. And he did try against CJ Vergara. He shot, off the top of my head, I want to say he shot like 5 times and got 1 takedown, something of that sort. I'll pull it up real quick while we're talking. Sorry. But and you look at Zaruk Adashev, like I'm a big fan of his, and he actually shot 7 times, did Ode Osborne, against Vergara. He only got 1, but what I'm looking for is for him to shoot, right? Because like while it might not work on Vergara, I do think those shots will work on Adashev. Zaruk Adashev, like I was super high on him coming in just because I'm biased. He's from Brooklyn. I'm born and raised from Brooklyn, so I wanted him to do well. Then Tyson Nam sparked him. Then they gave him Sumaderji. They almost fed him to freaking Jeff Molina. I'm really glad that fight didn't happen. And then finally he got a win against Benoit. And unfortunately, I think he's going to lose again. And, you know, he's got a sub loss already, and we've seen him uncomfortable on the ground. No one in the UFC's really tested him there so far. Zaruk, like I think Ryan Benoit shot 1 time. Yeah, he shot 1 time. So no one's really testing him there. I think once he does get tested, he will get submitted. And I'm hoping Ode is the one to do it. Ode. I got it at plus 500, but you can actually get plus 600 now other books. So I really like that. I do.
I think that's a really good spot too. Yeah, it's one of those, you know, kind of like we were saying about Menifield. Like if Ode Osborne comes out here grappling minded, I think that's a very likely outcome. You know, I think he's, you know, just because it's what he likes to do or what he's accustomed to doing, he's probably going to go on, hang out and strike for a little while, you know. But yeah, like it makes sense that it's so weird when you talk about like one thing that I say in my breakdown videos all the time is you know, you want to bet on what a fighter will do, not what a fighter can do. Cause so often a fighter has such a clear, I mean, it's easy for us to say as couch warriors, right? But it's so, but like so often a fighter has such a clear path to victory and then they just don't take it, you know, because it's just not what they like to do or not what they're accustomed to doing or whatever the reason is. But yeah, this is one of those, yeah, if Ode Osborne decided I'm going to put the singlet on and just come out here and take this guy down and take his back and choke him out, he could probably do it in the first round if he just decided to, you know? So yeah, I like that. Just a matter of doing it, Ode. Just a matter of doing it, buddy. Yeah, Ode is a big fan of the show. He's always watching. I made that up, but all right.
I hope you're right, though.
I'm gonna get a message from him on Twitter now. Like, all right, I'll put this. I'll walk out in the singlet. He's gonna get a Venom singlet made. All right. So for my fourth one, I got a plus 550 here. It's kind of a weird one, but I went with Karine, whatever her name is, Karine Silva by sub at plus 550. And this is a fight that I really don't feel like I have a strong read on how this fight is going to play out. Like sometimes when I'm watching tape, I feel like almost every event, there's at least one fight, if not 2, where I keep like zoning out while I'm watching tape. And then I keep having to like rewind and I'm like, what the hell is even happening? And then I kind of just listen to myself with those a lot of the time that I'm like, well, clearly this isn't interesting me. Like I'm just not getting into it. So then I just decide like, I'm not going to bet this fight. I'm not going to even go any further. I'm just going to, and I feel like that was kind of happening to me with this one. And I was just kind of like, yeah, I don't feel like I have a great read on either of these fighters, but as far as whether they're going to go to the ground, whether it's going to play out largely in a stand-up, I don't feel like I know. But you know, Silva does have quite a few subs. She has wins in the past by armbar, guillotine, knee bar, heel hook, and triangle. So she's able to. It's not like she's just like a one-trick pony where she gets the armbar from guard or something. She's able to get a lot of different subs from a lot of different positions, which I like to see. And when we see her on her back, she is really active with her guard, and she, you know, she goes to that 10th planet mission control. She's always holding that leg up there, even looking for like gogoplatas and omoplatas and stuff. And it's cool to see that kind of active guard with somebody actually kind of looking for different things like that. So, you know, if this fight does play out on the ground for long spells, considering that Silva's able to get a lot of different subs from a lot of different positions, I think that's a reasonable outcome, and especially at plus 550. And this one I actually did bet already. I actually bet this one pretty much right after I did the tape study on this. I saw that and I was like, plus 550, that's worth a shot. So we did it.
Yeah, I got definitely not for me. I'm not a big Silva guy, but I do see it. Botelho is definitely liable for a sub. I just feel like I don't know. I need to see more from Silva personally, but
yeah.
For my fourth prop, we've mentioned this already several times, but Benefield by sub. I am going with the hope that he actually goes through with the plan. I got it at +6. I got it at +700. It's +600 now. I think that's still good. There's a reason it's at these odds. We are hoping. It's not something he normally does. But unlike Ode, like he has already done it in the UFC. I don't think Ode's gotten a sub in the UFC. I'm pretty sure. But Benefield has against Charant. And I just feel like for +700, like for a sprinkle, I just think it's a good spot. Like I think it's a path of victory that is there. It's not too much of a stretch. And as long as, he goes into it the right game plan, he's coming out of a decent camp, like he should be able to do it. And hopefully he does.
Yeah, like you said, considering that he does have one submission victory already, and considering who he's up against here, you said you got my +700 on that.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a great line on that. Yeah, I mean that definitely seems worth a sprinkle to me because yeah, it's just kind of like we were talking about with Ode Osborne. It's almost like just a matter of him deciding to do it that way, right? Like, am I going to sub this guy? Sure, just make it happen, right? All right, so for my fifth one, I went with a +650 here. I went with Aaron Blanchfield by KO TKO at +650.
Nice.
I do think the decision is the most likely outcome here. We already talked about this fight a little bit. Not that it's necessarily going to look like you said, like she might not get the takedowns as easily as she did against Maverick and might not get as much time control or top control. But, I expect that she's going to be able to get takedowns and get top control against Aldrich here. And we did see her against Maverick get to a crucifix position for a little while. And, potentially she could find a crucifix and be able to land some elbows, for a ref stoppage or even for a cut for a doctor stoppage, something like that. So I thought, if your read on this fight is that Blanchfield is going to be able to get the takedowns and is going to be able to control with the top position for a long time, I don't think +650 is a bad number for her possibly finding a KO TKO. So that's one that I will probably play as well.
Yeah, I think that's a great spot. I've been looking at that and the sub. I've been kind of torn there because I feel like a sub is also possible for her. So
yep.
I actually wasn't going to bring it up on the show, but since you insist, I actually did play her in round 3. I didn't go with the method because I think both are live, but I feel like if she does get a finish, it's probably going to be in round 3 because she does keep that pace. She does keep that pressure. And like, if she's just wrestling Aldrich, making her work, and even better, if Aldrich is getting up and making it harder, like it's going to be harder for Aldrich herself too. It takes a lot of work to get up. If Blanchfield can get her gassed by round 3, I feel like a finish could be pretty live there. And that was +1200 when I got it. So
I just wrote that down. I'm going to play that one. I like that.
But for my fifth, another round 3, I went with Trezano round 3, also +1200. When I do these round 3s, like at the +1000 and whatever odds, like I only do a 0.1 unit because like you're risking almost nothing and you're looking to win a unit or more. So to me, it's like a good move personally. I like Trezano round 3. Like I mentioned earlier, Almeida looks really good in round 1 and then kind of falls off a cliff in round 2 and 3. I think that'll change over time, but I think it's too soon where we're just going to see a big difference. So I think it's definitely a possibility for Trezano to put it on him, keep that pace, and then in round 3 just break him. So for +1200, I like that sprinkle too.
I like that too. We got Jackie Halliday chimed in here. Benoit Saint-Denis by sub, Carini Silva by sub, Rozenstruik by TKO for a 3-leg prop parlay. I don't have any books that let me parlay props, which bums me out when I find spots that I really want to do. But overall, I think it's probably good for me that I don't have a book that allows me to parlay props. Like as far as my actual financial situation and my tracked record, it's good. As far as my degeneracy and having fun, it's bad. But overall, I think it's probably a good thing. I was just gonna say, introduce me to your kitty, Mike. I'm a big kitty guy.
Yeah, this is Mila. She's my cat. She hates people, but if it's on her own terms, it's okay. She
Awesome.
comes by my show. So, yeah, you see, like I picked her up, so it's
Yep.
no longer okay. But yeah, that's my cat. And then I got Spliff running around there too sometimes, my dog.
Yeah, I thought I saw a dog behind you. Awesome. Yeah, my two are I have a sliding glass door next to me. They're sitting outside the sliding glass door. My dog, I put him out during the show because I don't want him to bug me and stuff, but he'll stand out there and just stare at me while I'm recording the show because he wants to come in.
Dogs are like that. My dog will just stare at me when I'm doing
Yep.
things. It makes me so uncomfortable.
Putty cat. How's it going, Daz? Good to have you in here, buddy. All right. So that brings us to the final prop number 6. I did find one with a real big number here. Sometimes we do a draw at the end for like the plus 6,600. I didn't find a draw that I liked here this time, but I was able to jump up. So for my 5th one, I was at plus 650. I did jump all the way up to plus 2,800 here. Dan Ige by KO TKO in round 3. And we kind of talked about that a little bit already. Like I do like Evloev to win this fight. I do have a bet on Evloev. He's at minus 400 for a reason, I think. But there's always that, and not that Dan Ige is like a big knockout artist or anything, but he's got some knockouts in the past and he's got pretty decent hands. And like, the one potential knock on Evloev is that he can slow down. He doesn't necessarily death gas, but he'll slow down a little bit. And especially if he's having to wrestle, if Ige is able to get up and he's having to chain wrestle to get him down again, and Ige's getting up, we could definitely see Evloev slow down quite a bit by the 3rd round. And this is one of those spots where, if he's slowed down quite a bit and he's unable to get the takedowns, maybe part of it plays out on the feet and Ige is actually able to catch him standing up. Another possibility I see is Evloev, he's a little bit tired out. He's a little bit slow. His shots aren't coming as quickly. Maybe he shoots a takedown in round 3, and it's one of those situations where in a scramble, Ige ends up on top, or it's just kind of a lazy, sloppy shot, and it doesn't quite turn out right, and Ige ends up on top, and maybe is able to land some ground and pound, something like that. But that seems to me a spot that's worth a shot there. One thing I was trying not to do, like I feel like every episode of this show at the start, I'm like, well, I didn't hit anything, so here's what I'm going to try to do better moving forward. And one thing that I used to do all the time when I was just chasing the big numbers is I would put my props out there and then I would go back through them and look at them and be like, I'm not even picking fighters that I think are going to win. In hopes of getting the bigger numbers, I've picked 6 props from fighters that I don't think are going to win their fights. So I've been trying not to do that. But this spot, even though I don't lean Ige to win this fight, it's just it's a number that looks good to me and it kind of makes sense to me. So I do like that one. Dan Ige by KO TKO in round 3 at plus 2,800.
To your point about betting fighters who you don't think are going to win, I do the same thing. Like especially if I'm betting heavy on somebody, for example, Gravely, right? I've got 3 units on him, and like my 6th pick, it's literally Munoz by submission in round 3. It's plus 1,600. I got it at. I like my hedge props. I do it all the time. If there's a big number and I think that's that person's path, like I've already put up a big number on their opponent because I think their opponent wins. But if I think there's a path, why not just sprinkle a little bit? I only have to put 0.1 unit on that Munoz sub, and if he gets it, I get back 1.6 units from my 3-unit stake. So, and if he doesn't get it and Gravely wins like I think he does, I only lose out on 0.1 unit there. So I do like doing those kinds of things. I love that Ige by KO spot. I'm going to hit that too. You did just Ige round 3, right?
It was Ige round 3 by KO TKO.
Really? On FanDuel, it's plus 3,900.
I do my props on Bet Online. That's the only one I have that. And they always have worse numbers. I live in Nevada, so I can't use DraftKings or FanDuel, so I always have worse numbers on those props. Yeah.
You would have thought that in Nevada you could use all those books.
Yeah, I don't know if it's something. I think it has to do with because you can't play daily fantasy. You can't play like the DraftKings games. You can't play those here. So I think because those are not legal in Nevada, somehow it also makes it so those sports books aren't. I don't really understand it exactly, but I'm not able to use those, unfortunately.
But yeah, I mean, if anyone has that Ige by no matter who you think wins, I mean, Ige KO round 3 plus 3,900 is crazy.
Yeah, that's
to
great.
me. That's crazy to me. I do like that spot too.
And did we hear your 6th yet?
But yeah. So my 6th, like I mentioned, was the Munoz Jr. Round 3.
Right.
Stuff.
That's right. Sorry, I forgot. Yep, that's right.
Nah,
and what number was that at again?
I got that at plus 1,600 because like everybody else, I do recognize that he is a sub threat. While I think it's less so as others do. I do think it's there. And Gravely has shown, especially in round 3, he starts to get sloppy, leaves his neck out, and that's just prime time for Munoz to get that submission. So if I'm gonna bet the sub, I do it in round 3 plus 1,600. I love it. So that's my little take on that fight.
I love and I love that you bet all these. I was just gonna say, like, since you actually bet all these, I was like, man, I'm gonna be messaging you during the fights and keeping an eye on the picks that you put out there. But then I remembered I'm traveling this weekend and I'm actually gonna be I'm gonna be at an event at my parents' church on Saturday afternoon, and I'm not even gonna be able. Well, I'm gonna be able to watch the fights probably part of the day, but I'm gonna miss a lot of.
You're gonna have your phone in the corner like this,
dude. I do that a lot at a lot of my wife has a huge family, and a lot of times on Saturdays we end up being at like a birthday party or some other kind of function because she has a ton of family in town, and I don't even try to hide it anymore. I sit and watch fights on my phone. Everybody knows what I'm doing. It's like whatever. They know that's my thing, I guess. But awesome. Yeah, I'm gonna keep an eye on the picks that you put out there as well. I hope we're both able to hit some of these spots. Well, thanks so much for coming on the show, Mike. This was super fun. Why don't you go ahead and tell the people there's Milo, is that her name? Milo.
Yeah, she's wilding out right now.
She's awesome. Why don't you let us know just kind of what you've got going on as far as content you're putting out and that kind of thing, and where we can find you?
Absolutely. So my Twitter is CouchWarrior Pod. It's right there on the screen. That's where I put all my picks as soon as I make them. Like if you follow me, I'll literally sometimes just drop something at 3 a.m. because I'm just watching tape and then I pick a spot, so I post it. So if you want to get my picks, that's where they're at. I'm also tracked on betmma.tips. In terms of shows, I've got a Tuesday night show where I break down the card from a betting perspective, the usual stuff. That's on Tuesdays at around 8:30. Still working on a firm time, but it's around that point. On Wednesdays, I do a fantasy show. I actually did it right before this show today, where I break down the card from... It started with DraftKings and Prize Picks, and I'm slowly pushing away DraftKings. Now we're doing Prize Picks, Underdog Fantasy, and I just got introduced to Monkey Knife Fights, which is cool too. So did those 3. And then on Fridays, this week Thursday, but usually Fridays, me and Lou over on the MMA Engine, we do the Bet Elevator, which is pretty similar to this, where we come up with crazy props and we kind of just try to out crazy each other. And we do have to bet them too, which makes it a lot more fun. So definitely tune into that. That's at 8:30 as always. And yeah, that's me. Thank you for having me, Eric, by the way. It's been awesome. I really appreciated it.
Yeah, thanks so much, Mike. Yeah, those of you watching, make sure to check out everything Mike's doing. But if you haven't yet, check out Bet Elevator. Nobody else is doing a show quite like that. It's a really interesting concept. Basically, Mike and Lou go back and forth. It's almost like name that tune. Like I can name that tune in one note and like whatever. Like one of them puts out a bet, and then the other one tries to beat that bet with a higher number, and they go back and forth. It's a really cool concept. So yeah, it's very cool what they're doing. Yeah, thank you to everybody who stopped by to watch. Thank you to we had Patrick, Victor, Thomas, Jackie, and Daz. Those of you who are watching later on the recording, thank you so much to all of you as well. I am Eric with Erik Bets Fights. You can find me on Twitter at Erik Bets Fights, on Instagram at Erik_Bets_Fights. Also, of course, right here on my YouTube channel. Please like and subscribe here. You can also find me at the Never Hedge Media YouTube channel. As far as what I've got going on week to week, I've got a new show called Mixed Martial Smarts, which is a mixed martial arts trivia show that I'll be putting out every week. I'm not sure it's going to be on a consistent schedule, but I'm not sure which day yet. It's probably going to be either Monday or Tuesday. I usually have my full card breakdown out on the Never Hedge Media YouTube channel on Wednesday. And then I do a roundtable with the Never Hedge guys on Friday. And then you can find me Saturdays, every Saturday that there's a UFC card, 1 hour before the prelims begin on the DFS by the Numbers YouTube channel. There's a panel of 4 of us that go through the whole card and give you our favorite bets for each fight. And then the show ends right as the UFC card begins. So it's a great last stop to get your last minute DGen action in. Thank you so much to all of you for being here. I really appreciate it. Hope to catch you next time. Thanks again to Mike for being here. Have a great night, everybody, and enjoy UFC Vegas 56 this weekend. Take care.